The Badgers open Big Ten play by traveling to East Lansing, Michigan for the first time since 2011 to take on number 8 Michigan State. Game will start at 11 a.m., be televised by BTN. Head coach Paul Chryst is here. We'll have some opening comments and take questions.
Well, I'm appreciative of what the group of kids, players, coaches have done in non-conference, and now we are all excited to start Big Ten play, and be able to do it at Michigan State. Big Ten, defending Big Ten champions, and I think, what I remember when Mark first went to Michigan State, and I think it's been 10 years now, and what he's done there. You see some of the same qualities from his earlier teams, tough and play smart, physical, playmakers on both sides of the ball, and that shows up in the special teams. And yet you see, each team, like ours, each year, each team's a little bit different. But our kids are excited to start Big Ten play. Obviously, I'm excited, and the coaches are excited, and looking forward to a good week of preparation. And then I thought I'd kind of jump ahead to maybe an anticipated question. And was able to talk about our quarterbacks and was able to talk with both Alex and Bart yesterday, and really what I told them is been consistent with what I've told them all along and have been telling everyone, and that this week we've got to prepare, and they both have to do a great job of preparation, and I said this when we named Bart the starter, that he earned the right to start, and Alex earned the right to play. Told both kids that, and that wanted to play them both, and we would need them both. And for us to be as good as we can, I still believe that we're going to need both those guys. And there's areas where at the quarterback position we can get better, and we need to keep working to get better. And I think there's some good things that both Bart and Alex have done that they got to continue to do well and build on that. And this week, in our preparation and in the reps, that's the one advantage that we have right now is with two quarterbacks really, and Correa obviously. He gets his work, and we get him enough reps should we need him. But we give a ton of work to them both, and where they can work through the whole game plan. And I thought, that last week was a good time. We needed a spark, and it wasn't so often. It's put on the quarterback, and the quarterback's responsible for a lot, just like everyone is. But you know what? I thought it was a good change-up for us, and so going to need them both, and looking forward to those guys working this week and going. And I think that was kind of, the lessons that we can learn from last year for our team is the little things, how that if you do them, you give yourself a chance, and if you don't, or if you miss a detail or two, that happened on a couple of those big pass plays against our defense, just guys not doing the little thing that makes a big difference. So looking forward to this week of practice with this group. I know the kids are excited, and I am as well.
Sure.
Both have to be ready to play, to be sure, and I'm positive of that. And both have to go, and I told them there's going to be games where they're both going to play, and you do it in hockey. You have two goalies, and you can have a best pitcher in baseball, and he doesn't always finish the game. And so we need both of them to keep growing and go for us. And you know what? I'll let the week determine all of this stuff with who's going to play tailback, who's going to play left guard, who's going to play quarterback, who's going to play receiver, who's going to be the nickel corner, who's going to go there.
Andy?
Paul, to what degree are you bothered by your red zone efficiency to this point?
Oh, it drives me nuts. That's those are opportunities, and you don't get them. You don't know when you get them or how you get them, and you know, we've had back-to-back weeks of ball. You know, we had the 4th and 1 we didn't get 2 weeks ago. We get the one yesterday, and that's the detail. You know, that play is going to hit a little bit wider than it does in the field because of what's happening, and we're off on that detail. And you know, you appreciate the points, you know, when you can get them, and but you got to get touchdowns, and we've got to. That's an obvious area where we've got to get better.
Jeff.
Paul, you alluded to D'Antonio taking over the program back in 2007. What some of those games, obviously the 2011 season where you played him twice, just in general, what characterized that rivalry during that stretch? Because there were so many close games during that time.
You know, I think his always felt going into those games was, here's a really good football team, good players, well coached. In some ways, similar styles, but you can't say that. I mean, they were who they were, and we had a different approach. But I mean, it's just good football, and you knew it, and the kids knew it. And it was fun to play those games because you knew you had to be on, and you knew you'd be challenged. And I think we knew each other well. They knew what we were going to do, and so there was certain things that you knew you were going to see, and then you knew you were going to get a change-up, and that was always challenging and enjoyable. And I think what it was mostly, or as much, those games meant something.
Andy.
Paul, going back to the red zone question, do you think you've defied the odds a little bit to this point, that you're 3-0 and you haven't maximized those opportunities to the degree that you should in a couple of close games?
I mean, I don't know. I don't spend time thinking about the odds and all this. I do spend a ton of time thinking of how can we be the best we can be, and we haven't taken advantage of those opportunities. And I think, you know, we've had 2 of the 3 games we've played in to this point have been close games, and that's part of the reason why they're close is that, you know, if you turn the ball over, you know, pick, fumble, we end up being all right. You know, not all right, but the 4th and 1 we didn't get 2 weeks ago. Defense gets a safety, but you can't rely on that to happen. But I think the focus has to be on us executing and doing the little things, and if you want to win consistently, I think you've got to be efficient in red zone offense, red zone defense, third down, and in takeaways or turnovers.
Jason.
Paul, what's your level of concern with the running game coming into this week with so many running backs questionable?
I'm concerned about the running game every week until you do something. You know, and we'll find out. You know, we got guys that are questionable, and we'll see where that goes. But I know we'll have a good plan, and we know that we've got to play well, and you're going to have to be physical against this team. And so I'm confident in the group and how they're going to approach this week, and we'll have a good plan for the guys.
Well, it appears that you're expecting to get Fumagalli back, which I'm sure is a relief to you. But what did Peniston learn in that game, getting so many reps and having to make some plays after missing a couple balls he'd probably like to have?
Yeah, I think that it's the I don't know exactly what he learned. You know, the lessons that you hope he learned is that how you don't know when your time is. It's not much different to me than what we're talking about in the red zone. You don't know when you get that opportunity, but when you do, you have to seize it. And I think that, you know, he's got to understand some of the early mistakes. The obvious ones, you know, had the opportunity to catch a couple footballs, but he had a couple other ones where just understanding the patience of the play and spacing. And so I think all those, they hear it, and, you know, I talked with Bradrick about the same thing. You know, what did you learn from that? It's not so much what happened negative, what did we gain from, what did we learn from it that we can go forward with. And so I think that experience is valuable, and we've got to teach all of our players to respect the game, the practice experiences, so that they don't have to show up in a game. But I thought Kyle competed, kept his poise, and that's not always easy when he knows he dropped it, but he kept going. And I think he's got good confidence in himself, and that was, in a weird way, it's fun to see those guys struggle and overcome it. And the same thing happened, I think, defensively. We gave up a couple big pass plays on some pretty relatively simple things, and yet they respond, and I thought we finished well. And so that's the beauty of this game.
Paul, with these first 5 Big Ten games in particular, there's a chance when you play them, all 5 could be ranked. Can you recall a more difficult stretch to open Big Ten play that you've been around at Wisconsin?
No, but I never really spent. I thought every game was big, and I think that's why I think you got to approach each week its own week and be in that moment and enjoy that. And then at the end of the year, the story will be written, but it's only written on the actions. And so the best way for us to act and be is in the moment, and so we're excited. It's Michigan State week.
Andy?
Paul, if you could go down memory lane just a little bit here. What's the biggest difference in the Big Ten since you played? I know there's more teams. I know there's these types of things, but is it a scheme thing?
They got good players. No, we had good players back then, but it wasn't. I think football's changed.
Is it parity? What is there one thing that stands out above the rest in your mind?
No, I mean, I think it's like anything in life, it evolves. And someone asked me about that with, how has Wisconsin's changed the TV crew, and has Wisconsin changed since you were? I'd hope so. I mean, it's been, a lot of years. And I think the same with football. I mean, it's changed. It used to be, you'd see 2 or 3 coverages and you'd get a pressure, and the formations were pretty basic. And I think that, kids are evolving, the athletes are evolving, and I think it's evolved quite a bit.
Paul, you've obviously liked Alex a long time, having recruited him. What are some of the things he does as a quarterback that you like?
I think I like the way he works at being the best he can be, and I think that's a kind of a skill or a talent. I think he's got poise, and I think he certainly has enough of the natural abilities, arm strength and accuracy that give him a chance. And that's also what I've really liked and appreciated out of Bart this year, is the way he's working. And I think all quarterbacks have to be tough, and I think both of them have that physical toughness and the mental toughness. But I think those are probably some of the things that just how Alex approaches it and plays and puts himself in the moment at practice. He looks the same in practice as he does in games. He doesn't morph into someone else.
Jeff?
Paul, I think every time Joe Rudolph is asked about the development of the offensive line, he says they just have to keep growing week after week. But I'm just curious if you feel better with the way this line can perform going into the Big Ten opener this year than last year, when you guys had to keep shifting things around more wholesale than done right now.
I don't find myself trying to compare it to last year. I like the way this group works. I like their intentions. I think there's a ton of, I know this gets old for everyone, but there is a ton of growth that we have to take at all positions, and therefore as a team. But that's not to say that we're not. Like, I'm energized when I go out to practice and the way these guys work, and they see it, and they see how, how they can get better. And I think that's what's encouraging. We did that, yesterday with the quarterbacks. Here's the things we did well. Here's the areas that we can improve and put them in different categories. And now they've got something tangible, instead of, well, just want you to get better. And I think the line is that. And you know what, we're going to have, it's rare and you appreciate it when you don't have to shuffle the deck a lot. But there weren't many years when I was back here before that we weren't having to do some of that. I remember, day of games, getting guys ready and putting the chairs, making room in the ballroom and running through so we could get guys ready to play. So I think that's part of that world. And but I like the way they work, and I think they see that, and I think they've done some things that are really good that you can build on. And then, you know what, all 3 weeks, the list of correctables are about the same each game, the last 3. And I think we always want to make sure we've got that, so we got something for them to improve on. But I'd agree with Joe. They're growing, and they got to keep growing.
Paul, I know you can't do anything about it, but are you okay with a 9-game conference schedule, or would you rather have 5 home, 5 road, or 4 home, 4 road?
I love it. They're not asking me, and I'm not, you asked me. But I mean, I think you always, as a coach, as a player, you look at your schedule and you get excited for it and you appreciate it.
Paul, defensively, how do you like where those guys are going into Big Ten play, and then overall, and the secondary in particular, playing without Nantrell last game?
Yeah, we missed Nantrell, I think, defensively and special teams. I mean, he was our special teams MVP last year, and I thought he was growing. I've liked what we've done defensively, and I like the fact that there's areas where we can get better. And in the secondary, I thought last week for the first time we had a couple of mistakes that wound up hurting us, and got exposed, and yet they're correctable, and kids see it, and kids knew it right away. And so I like this team right now and their approach, and yet we have by no means arrived yet. And yet I think the first 3 weeks we've done some things that if we can keep doing those well, that'll help us. And I think there's areas that we have to improve to be the best we can be, and that's what we're trying to do.
Anything else for Coach?
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Coach.